You're listening to Bigfoot Society, and I'm Jeremiah Byron. Tonight's story isn't from a casual hiker or a camper. It's from John Allen, a man who grew up in the heart of Northeast Texas, where the land and the spirit of the forest called to him. Over the years, John would encounter the beings that reside in these woods, the Sasquatch. But these weren't just wild creatures. These were family-oriented, ancient beings capable of telepathic communication and gift-giving. John shares his most profound experiences, moments when he was not just a witness, but a participant in their world. This is the first-hand account of John Allen, the man who became friends with Bigfoot, so stay with us. All right, Bigfoot Society, we've got the privilege of talking to John Allen today. John Allen is an individual that got connected to, that's been experiencing some things regarding the forest people out there in Northeast Texas. So we've got a lot of interesting things to cover today, but I'm excited to have John on the show. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You know, I know a little bit about where we're going, but I think it would be great to say, feel free to take us back when you first started noticing and having all these interactions. And feel free to share with us today what you've experienced over the years, John.
At the beginning, I'll try to move on through pretty quickly on the beginning. I'm 56. I grew up in the country. Dad was a cowboy. I grew up pretty much a country boy, so I didn't expect any of this, what was about to happen to me in my life concerning the forest people. When I was somewhere around 10 or 11, I was with my buddy playing. We looked across a field at the edge of a tree line, and I saw a tall, dark figure standing there, and the mystery, awesome mystery. I wasn't scared. Somehow it was familiar, but I'd never seen anything like that in my life. I knew nothing about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, all the other multiple names. I can remember just looking at it. It was so far away, probably 300 or 400 yards, leaning up against the tree. And my buddy was a little scared. But that was the first time that I ever saw a forest person. I didn't know what it was until years later. So somewhere around 2013, 2014, I've been drawn to them all my life and so interested. I loved all that crap, aliens, Bigfoot, and Loch Ness Monster, and ancient this, and ruins and stuff. So I just found mysteries interesting, and I would read about it as much as I could. And I had plenty of years to think about, what would I do if I ever came face to face with what I knew by that time in my life, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. And I always just wanted to have a relationship with them. I always wanted to make a friend. And I had imagined that so many times over the years growing up, of peaceful interaction. And what would I ask them? Would we be able to communicate? Do they talk? Maybe if I spent enough time with them, I could learn their sign language or language. I had no idea, but I had dreamt a lot about it. I heard a man on a podcast named Thomas Hughes. The interviewer, it came out that he could speak with them telepathically or through mind speak. He wasn't hard to find. I was just blown away. It's the first time I'd ever heard of anything about that, communicating. And I found his number, or reached out to him on Facebook. He friended me. We changed numbers, and we talked for, every other day for a while. And one of the first conversations, he said, "Well, what do you want? What are you looking for? What's your intent, so to speak?" And I said, "Man, I really just want to be friends. So many things I would love to ask them." He said, "Well, there's one in your neighborhood right now. She's a female, and she's completely aware of you. I had contact with her via mind speak right now, and I about lost it. It all. I'm not I can smell BS a mile away. Like I say, I kind of grew up as a cynical country boy, and been hunting and fishing and all that. But this was kind of too far out. But it resonated as the truth, and I could tell that he was also a Texas boy like I was, and it felt right, and I felt it kind of, and I didn't know that it was, I don't know, feelings. I didn't know at that time that feelings would play such a huge role as the years went by, but he talked to her there about me and would translate back and forth through what I learned later, what we called mind speak, kind of telepathy, but different. And I can tell you the differences in a minute on at least how I feel that they are. I don't consider myself telepathic, but I have learned to feel the communication with them. So over that first year, I I became more open to feeling or hearing. I started out with yes or no questions. And sorry about that. That's a chair in the background. I started with yes or no questions, followed his advice. I was more humble than anything else and didn't do a lot of expressing my opinion about it. I just listened and took advice. And I started out with asking a question and see if I could feel a yes or no. And I would feel a yes or a no, and then I would ask the question in more detail, and there'd be silence. And I'd ask him, I can feel the yes or no, but then I try to expound on it, and I don't hear anything. And so, reword your question. Okay, the next time. So it was a trial and error on the first basic ways of communicating with them. And it was through feeling. I was told so many times to don't think it away. Your mind will, when you start feeling the messages in your heart or the words in your heart, any kind of feeling from them, your mind will quickly think it away, and then you call it BS, or you'll say, "Oh, that ain't happening. That's got to be something else," But if you trust that first feeling every time, you'll be spot on before your mind starts thinking it away into nothingness. But at the same time, I was physically out in the woods and started. Let me unplug that chair 1 second.
No problem.
Okay, sorry about that. Here we go again. I started going out into the woods, but I'd always gone up in the woods, but with the intent of making contact. And I learned real quickly that you don't expect anything from them. If you set up expectations, you will always be wrong. And if you don't have any expectations, you'll always be surprised and have a lot of fun. Just the fun and the love involved in all of this was probably the underlying thing, the takeaway from everything. But getting back to going out in the woods, so here I was trying to ask questions via mind speak. And I was learning that they can feel me coming into the woods before I'm even in the woods. They know my intent. They can feel the intent before I walk in the woods, and so on. These are some of the things that I was learning with Thomas Hughes and already speaking with the Sasquatch people very simply back and forth, together with Thomas. And when I would feel things and so on, he would validate. So it was kind of a slow process. But as I would go into the woods, I took natural things like sunflower seeds, organic apples. I would take gifts and leave them and talk to the woods. I would go in to the woods and a lot of times hold the palm of my hands up, and I wouldn't take a camera or a phone or a knife or a gun out of respect. And letting them know that I put myself completely in their control, showed that I trusted them, and I would walk in at dark and find a place and just feel, listen, and I would always the threshold would be tested a lot, little sounds or just all kinds of stuff. I mean, everything from, not all on the first visit, but man, I've heard so many things, mocking coyotes, knocking with their mouth, a lot of times things always came in threes, looking back over the years. I don't know if that ever means anything, but a lot of times different sounds would be in threes. But I can tell you one time I was taking some organic apples to a place. The sun wasn't down yet, and I wasn't going to stay long that night. I think I had something with the kids, but I took a bag of organic apples, and I got out to a place where a Sasquatch man told me to go through mind speak, showed me the scene of it, and I found it. And I took some sticks that were laying around. I built up like a little platform, probably about a foot off the ground. I stuck 4 sticks in and built like a platform on it and laid sticks across it. So it wasn't very strong at all, but I set the apples on top of it. I came back the next day, and those sticks were completely not touched, but the apples were gone, and a rock and a feather was laying there. The little stick platform that I built, man, it could have been knocked over by a raccoon or a hog or a squirrel, anything so easily. But whatever took the apples, I mean, I know what took the apples, but for anybody else in my shoes, seeing that, they would totally rule out anything from a possum to a coon to another varmint out there scrummaging around getting those apples. Yeah. The stories, I guess everybody's always interested in physical stories. Mine speak, it grew. Here I am 10 years later. I wrote a blog about 3-4 years over this time when I was really new to it and getting in. It was called My Lady of the Woods, and I shared it online for like about 3 or 4 years, and it was really intense. And here it is 10 years later, and I'm putting it into a book. It says all through there, I'm not doing anything for money. I never made a penny off the money, but sharing the story, somehow getting to know these people. I really just wanted to share the story of how loving they are, caring, family oriented, friendly, interesting, mysterious, joyous. They crack jokes. And it was a really intense 3 or 4 years there. And then I moved, and the only thing that I relied on was mind speak with them. But I'd already established that 3 or 4 years of heavy, intense contact. And that was not only me, but also with my wife and my kids, too. They experienced things, and pebbles tossed in our path when I wasn't there. And my wife saw one standing against a tree while we were in the lake swimming. My daughter did a few years later, a different place, same lake. We had one multiple times looking in our window at our house. The funny thing is, my wife and daughter were there looking out the window, describing it to each other, but I couldn't see it. So I don't, that's still unexplained. But they could see it and were talking about it, but I couldn't see it. But I'll tell you an interesting story that I have a Native American Indian buddy named Bone, lives there where I live, and he and I would go out a lot of times at night, and we had many awesome experiences at night, and we found each other. We became friends over these people. Just kind of, he overheard me say something kind of under my breath at some kind of get together where the kids were together or something, and he he asked me a question, and it got more and more deep that we realized that, hey man, we got this in common, because we didn't want to sound silly. But anyway, our friendship grew, and one time we were heading out to a place. It was in a national park late at night. It was going to be a full moon that night, and we had some sunflower seeds, I believe it was. I know we had jelly beans for the kids if there were going to be any kids there, but we had sunflower seeds, I think it was. And we walked out into the forest and came out to kind of an opening, a field, maybe a football field, square, big, and an opening surrounded by dense forest. And we planned to walk out there, see what happens for a couple hours or so. And as we were walking out, I could see a silhouette of a man crouched down in the tall weeds, just barely moving. I could not see any eyes, nose, any facial features, but I could see the silhouette. And as I stood there, the hair stood up on the back of my neck, not out of fear, but out of love. I mean, really out of love. I know what that means, and hopefully some of you guys know what it means. I was just excited. It's like the air was electric, literally electric. And I would take like a step closer, and the man didn't move. He just kind of swayed side to side, just really slow. And when he would lean to the side, I'm talking an inch or two, maybe a half inch, just a little bit, but I could definitely see this. It's real. I was so excited, happy. It was one of my first sightings, and couldn't see the facial features, but he was right there, man. I'm talking 10 feet away, and I could see that he wasn't crouched down as much as like his shimmered body was like in the ground, like he was standing in a hole or something. But I didn't see a hole. It was just kind of his feet were below the surface of the ground, and he was standing. Maybe because he was really tall and wanted to come down to my height somehow. Maybe that's what I thought over the years, but I couldn't tell. He wasn't so clear, but I got the feeling from him that we could continue on. And the moon was getting brighter and brighter, and we walked out there and we're just talking to the woods like I've done so many times out loud what my intent is to the people, whether they understand English or not. At least my energy, I felt at that time and still feel, you gave out what my meaning was, what the meaning to what I was trying to say and communicate with them. And we set out the jelly beans and the sunflower seeds and so on. And just sat there a minute. Bone pulled out a flute. It's like it was a drum. It's like he started chanting some Native American. I didn't understand what he was saying and what he was chanting. I couldn't understand the words, but it was a peaceful and typical American Indian sounding. And just sat there a little bit and relaxed, enjoying ourselves. And I think I was at the point I was asking what some of the words mean or something, and all of a sudden we hear a coyote off over the tree line back towards where we parked, like, a few miles away, back in that direction. And there was a coyote, again, in 3 yaps or 3 howls, whatever. And then there was a man or a coyote mocking sound that was probably, I don't know, within 20, 30 yards of us, and really close, but it wasn't a coyote. So at that point, we realized that, we're there, and that's different than the man that we had passed, and they're there, and they're here or whatever. And like, we were surrounded. It was exciting. We weren't scared. We didn't have any weapons on us. Didn't take a phone or a camera or anything. And then it got really good. We stood up and we looked out over the field. And I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. But we saw probably, I can't remember exactly, but 20, 30, maybe a little bit more than 30 Sasquatch people, all at different places of that field, like a black silhouette. Again, no facial features, no teeth and noses. It's too far away, but you could see out across that distance that, tall ones, short ones, and so on. And the thing that made it so freaking exciting was that they would fade out. It was just like a fade out, like a black silhouette, and then fade out into as a little slower than a camera flash, but you could just see it fade out like, and then you'd see that same silhouette shimmer back in, in just a little different spot from where they were. And we got to watch into the silhouettes, see if we could make sure that it was the same one shimmering out and then shimmering back in. But there were so many of them doing it that, it was hard to keep up. But that was like one of the little things that we were doing out there as we're talking and experiencing it all. And, magical night. So many communication and either clear and not clear. A lot of things came to me on that night, like what I learned to call later is thought forms. The mind speak had grown from, words and kind of sentences to thought forms, and thought forms is what I call when a whole paragraph or a whole kind of conversation comes into your mind at once, not just I started with the yes or no questions, but at this time it was kind of, whole sentences, and it wasn't even in words. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't really words, like a whole sentence that takes time to, it's just like a knowing. You just know all of a sudden, you know this there, and in a second, you know this automatically because of what they're sending you. And it was exciting. A lot of things we took away from that. For me, of course, I wrote about it in the blog, and I described as much as I could, and a lot of things for me to personally grow from, later think about, and so on. So, here I am at 56, and my life has become, I kind of got what I've always wanted, as far as the Sasquatch people, Bigfoot are concerned. That's become friends with them and family. I've got to experience their friendship and love and their jokes, and they're just as fun and mysterious as ever. But they're real people, and I feel as a child with them a lot of times. It's like they have ancient knowledge of the Mother Earth and the way things were. It's like, a lot of things over the years since this time, I, read books and thought about things, did growth, I still continue to grow. I'm definitely not an expert in anything, especially this, but, to share my story for whoever it finds that may find it interesting, but that's all I want. I don't want to be famous from this or make money from it, but I do feel like the love and friendship and joy of those wonderful people in the forest, I want that to be more known by the people instead of feces samples and hair samples and trying to find DNA and this and DNA that, and trying to get a photo and let's get a body and all that crap. Man, I hate all that stuff. I tell anybody, any researcher that ever wants to really know the Sasquatch people, first you have to examine your intent, what you really want, and be honest with yourself. And that right there will tell you whether or not you'll have success or not. Because if you want to shoot them, or if you have any negative thoughts, and you can forget about it. That intent's really important. But if it's love and friendship and mystery and answering questions, something like that, then you can go on to the next step. And the next step would be to, I got sidetracked, intent. Next step would be patience. Then take some things to share. leave the guns, knives, all that stuff at home, and go out and venture out. You don't have to go all the way to the deepest, hidden, darkest forest that you can imagine. Go off where you're private. Give a little respect for them to be able to move, so they, gives them a little privacy too, where you're secluded, and take some gifts and speak out loud to them what you want, and then leave. Come back later. Next night, be patient. Keep your eyes open for little gifts that they leave for you. And then that's how it starts. And it takes time. But you can't go out with a gun and shoot one and say they're real. There's a big difference between researchers and experiencers. It's like night and day. Researchers will research for the rest of their life. The experiencers experience them. And that's a big difference. And decide what you want to do. I guess I'm talking too much. You have any questions?
No, John, this is really fascinating. I love interviews like this because there are definite similarities that come out, especially in what you just went over, almost the guidelines that you've put in place for yourself. Are these things that you were told to do, or that you just figured out is best to do these things as you went along?
Oh, both.
Okay.
Both. My intent was always like a little innocent boy, and in ways I still am. I'm happily married for 30 years, and I love the simplicity and the beautiful and the beauty in life. So, my intent was pretty simple. I only hunt, for example, if I need to eat. I'm not out there I don't have any dead animals hanging on my walls or anything. So, not that I'm against anybody else for doing it. I'm just saying I'm not that way. So, my intent was pretty pure, pretty easy for them to read and for me to stand behind. And so that was done. And then patience. I would just, go out, and it was exciting to think about, being in Walmart and walking down the aisle. And I remember once telling my two kids that were there with me, were going out that evening, and I said, man, wouldn't it be funny? Isn't it funny that any of these people here in Walmart know that we're buying these organic apples and what we're fixing to do with them? They would go, they had no idea that we're fixing to take these organic apples out in the woods and shut them down and give them to Bigfoot. Think we're crazy. We'd all have a laugh, And we would leave gifts and, talk about the gifts left. And sometimes I wouldn't see. I would wonder if they left me something and I didn't find it. And one time, a Sasquatch man named Oitoli left me it's like a wood stick configuration in a tree. It was a cedar tree. And that's how I found that place that I was telling you about, in order to go and put the apples, build this little platform, build the apples up. He was the one that told me to find this place. And he made some kind of noise. It's been almost 10 years. I can't remember what that noise was, but it was like three things or whatever, like some kind of noise, went, whatever, knock, or I don't think it was a voice, but I knew in that direction was where I needed to go. And then I had the vision. He shared with me what it looked like. So anyway, I found it he told me that he left me a present in a tree. And when I got there, I saw this really neat, it's about my height, tall, it's about head height. He had built, like, taken sticks and woven them around this cedar tree. And I knew that I was in the right spot, and I felt comfortable there. And sure enough, we did have communication there for the next year or two, at least as far as the physical bodies were concerned. A lot of this stuff happens through mind speak.
Why is it so important to not have electronics with you when you go out? Have you found the answer to that?
No, I never said that. There was a problem with electronics. I left my phone at home out of respect for them.
Okay.
I just left my phone at home. I wasn't worried about calling anybody. I was out there with them. I certainly wasn't going to go on Facebook while I was out there with them. And I certainly, more than anything, didn't want anybody to call me while I was doing something so awesome. So I left it at home, and uh, I was once told by a female Sasquatch named Taji. Her name is Taji Ate, and she told me once at one time to take a flashlight, but asked me if I would always shine it down. But she said the weeds are so high, you're probably going to need a flashlight to see your way because it's really dark. But anyway, that's another story. That was the only time I think I took a light. I never took a gun with me, and never really needed one. There were times where I was told not to get out of the car. They gave me a feeling, we don't want you here tonight. And I'd wondered if I'd done something wrong, but I knew the message loud and clear in my mind, or my heart, my feelings, and said, okay, I'm gone. I can remember driving away. I realized later that there were some dangerous other beings that they said were dangerous in the area. And one time I was asked to leave because of hunting, that their physical bodies and this vibration were hunting, and they didn't want me to disturb that. I always ask them questions about the physical and the shimmering out and photos and why they're all blurry and stuff. And it is from what I understand, it is everything vibrates. There's no really such thing as death. Death is like when this body's over, you go into the next, something else after this. And that something else after this, also different levels. And I've heard people say vibrations and dimensions, and I don't know really the difference between all that stuff. That's for, I've heard it. I've heard all the words, but I do know that it's like scientifically proven that all matter vibrates, and all matter doesn't vibrate the same, but it all, and the light your eyes only see is, man, such a small percent of the light spectrum. So that means the other, whatever it is, 90% of what you can't see in the light spectrum is out there. And who knows what's out there that we can't see? But it's there all the same, maybe at different vibrations or different levels. Dimensions, again, another word, I really don't know exactly what it is, or the difference between all those. But the Sasquatch people vibrate at a different frequency than we do. And that's where they are most happy, and that's where they're at most of the time, or whatever. And for them to vibrate down at our vibration, it's not as easy for us to, if you look at it through their eyes, they look at it more like they're encouraging us to raise our vibration in order to be with them on their vibration level, instead of them always coming down to us and we don't ever grow or we don't ever learn. It's like they're trying to get us to embrace a lot of their ways of living.
Absolutely.
And get back grounded to the planet, and respect all living creatures, all living beings. And, another guy will ask, well, I've seen Bigfoot kill deer and stuff like that. And I was talking to a Sasquatch man, and he's made it very clear that, you're trying to judge us by saying, we're coming into, in our bodies and we're killing deer, and as you do not know the deal that we've made with that deer. Maybe the deer is wanting to go at that time, and we lovingly together help them through that transition. They provide nourishment for our bodies, and we help that deer onto the next great adventure, and the circle is complete. It's all about respect and being able to communicate and tap into that knowing and showing respect for each other. So it's a lot different than just looking like a Sasquatch man is running out and breaking a deer's neck. There's a story that is most of the time between them two that have nothing to do with us, that we don't know about, put it that way. So when I was told that, it made sense. I could, it resonated right away. Yeah, sure. Respect, honor, trust. Mother Earth, all creatures communicate. I've asked him multiple times, or multiple discussions, asked once, I guess, and that started lots of discussions about it, but why we humans are so deaf and blind to what else is going on out there. We humans consider ourselves the masters of the universe and the most civilized. If you every person on some level knows, they look around and look at our society, something's wrong with it. Either are we really this corrupt, or is it something else? Sasquatch people have said that it's not entirely our fault that we are so numb to what's going on with other creatures and other beings and other worlds and them and so on. We've been kind of controlled and dumbed down, and it's not entirely our fault. It doesn't give us an excuse to remain that way, but I always wondered about that, still do, what all that entails. Who is it? It's like, a hidden group somehow infiltrated a lot of our human groups and control them and kind of make us fight against each other somehow. There's always friction amongst us humans, and we can never get it together as one. And it's not just because we're stupid, but we have been manipulated. So, who's doing it? I don't know. I don't claim to know everything, but I do know that that's part of it. And you ask, how did I learn these things, and I guess about giving gifts or whatever. I took advice. Thomas told me some things, and there were other people I reached out, and I listened a lot. Very careful to tell my story. I've been at this for a long time, and I'm a member of different Bigfoot groups and Sasquatch groups out there. But I really don't say too much. Just listen, read everybody else's experience. I can always tell if people are looking through feces and trying to figure out if Bigfoot exists or not, or if people are talking about more of the spiritual conversations and thoughts that they might have. And I tend to go to those groups to where, you can get on with it, and surround myself more with those kind of conversations. But I don't say very much. I've always been kind of really shy to get out in the public eye. I think I've done 4 or 5 podcasts. I did an interview with Thomas a few years ago before he died.
Oh man!
And then I had MS. It was a tough one. He was happy to go.
Oh wow!
The blog was really good. There was a lot of people that participated and would write in questions, and I would ask the forest people their questions and get answers, and I would put the answers back out into the blog for the next blog. And we had a good conversation and following going on, but it was really getting big, and there was a lot of pressure, and I kind of got scared, selfish, I guess, and kind of hid more. And I don't know, kind of hid a little bit more. And I think I didn't go on social media as much anymore, and I kind of tried to let it die down. And I knew somehow on some level that it wasn't good that I did that, not because I'm know-it-all or expert. There are no experts in this. People that tell you they are, you run quickly the other way. But, I was nervous in sharing my experiences, but I have changed my mind in the last year, started in 2024. And I've had conversations over the years, but it got really intense in 2024 with them. And I know that, I know that I have to really get back and continue. So that's what I'm doing now. And this interview came from me saying something on a group, I think, on Facebook. And then one of you guys sent me the message, I think. And
correct.
Are you interested in talk, have a conversation about it? And I took that as a sign, okay, man, this is, I really need to get up. I'm being, yes, I have to do this. I have to get back out and talk again and share. It's up to, I'm not trying to teach anybody anything, and I don't want a dollar from anybody, but the positiveness and the love from the hairy folk and the beauty that comes from knowing them and how easy it is to talk to them and the patience that comes with being able to share gifts and communicate with them is so easy. People need to know that. Get away from these Bigfoot shows and guns and knives and, samples and all that. People just need patience. Get out there and examine their intent. Go out there night after night until something happens. And don't expect anything. Just embrace it when it does happen. And it'll start to grow. And when it grows, you won't need to research anything ever again. You'll experience and you'll know from that point on.
It's a lot of what you're saying is making a lot of sense when I think of how people have reported, they'll feel drawn to go out to the woods. They'll go out to the woods, and then after spending time in there, sometimes a little time, sometimes a lot of time, they'll start to have experiences that are, very similar to what you've been reporting as well. It's almost like you're resetting, you're getting away from culture, you're getting reset out in nature, and then you're able to get this type of communication. At least that's how I'm getting it. But
I like that word reset. I've never thought about that before. That's a interesting way to put it. Like you mean something you can't quite put your finger on what it is, but is it getting reset? Is that what you mean? Like spiritually or?
Well, your focus
emotionally.
Focus is kind of reset, right? You're able to clear your mind a little bit. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I like that way of putting it. Yeah. I would use the words, I got to get away and go get grounded. I need, balance. Balance for me is everything. And if I'm out of balance, then a lot of things are missing from my life. I'm like, I can't participate in this or I can't participate in that, but I need balance.
Absolutely.
Everything from work to nature. I love my family, my wife and kids, and being with them. And to the extent that I know that for healthy sake, I need to find something to do alone, because I love being with my family so much that I need to find some kind of things that, get out and meet other men and stuff. But I'm not interested in going to sports bars or, what else to do. So, and mine is going to the woods and playing my guitar. And, that's another thing. If you're a musician, go to the woods and just enjoy playing your music and that happens what happens. And that's all I'll say.
So, okay,
You'll have an audience before.
This is extremely interesting because this is something that has really come up over the last 5 years and multiple times where these experiencers that are out in the woods a lot, they'll have their guitar. And I'm thinking one gentleman in particular in Oregon, and things happen when they play their guitar and they're singing and they're performing this music with a pure heart. And I've been there when this happens, and then you get a vocalization from the woods. Do you have any thoughts about why that is, that this music plays in so much?
Yeah, it's easy. It's communication of the soul, man. That's all it is. Whether you're, some people beating the drum. I always wondered, where's the melody in that? You're just beating the drum. I'm a little cynical country boy to think about that too. It's like, man, I need some guitar with that, some kind of harmony instead of just beating the drum. But hey, that's message of the soul, and or communication of the soul. Sorry, and that drum's very, very important. And it's I don't know the words. It's like the rhythm, rhythm and with the nature's rhythm. And, since it's done from the soul, on the spiritual level, it probably lines up and harmonizes somehow with different energies that are beating. As far as me playing my guitar, I have an acoustic guitar and I'll take out and play it. I don't really try to perform. I'll just uh, pick it with my fingers and make up stuff, and sometimes just let a chord ring. And man, one of the most intense times I had playing my guitar, I went out in the woods and built a fire, small one, and played my guitar. And I took a 6-pack of beer and I sat there for a while. And the sun went down. I lost track of time, and I heard a wah wah. No, what was it? No, what was it? Wah wah wah. There's two sounds. Man, it's been 8-9 years ago. Like two sounds. Kind of, it was a voice. I can't remember exactly what it was. Of course, I didn't record it. But at that point, I set my guitar down and I felt like energized. It was electric. I had a buzz from drinking the 3 beers, I think, and really enjoying my guitar. I felt that I had company. But with this one guy walking up, I knew it was a man. He had walked into a party that was already going on, so to speak, and he was really touched, and he had never heard that before, like with the guitar, from what I understood as the night went on and communicating. But when he walked in, he gave off a feeling to me like, I mean, it's been in the past sometimes when I've been really freaked out or nervous, kind of fight or flight, that the Sasquatch people have sent me a calming energy, and I just completely feel like, calmed. And that was what he sent me at that time, was electricity. It was like everything around me got quiet, really quiet, and it kind of got tight, and the hair on my whole body was standing up. I couldn't see him, but I knew he was right there. And then it was like a really silent moment, like physically silent. And it's like I was electric. Maybe that has something to do with vibration. I don't know. I've had different electrical experiences in my life concerning them. That was kind of like that at that time, but it's kind of stopped right away pretty much, and felt peaceful. And if it would have been a saloon, the chatter would have begun and the guy on the piano would have continued playing. But it wasn't that kind of party. It was just me and out with acoustic guitar in the woods with a little fire, and I heard the crickets again, and the locusts off in the distance, and the crackling of the wood and the fire and stuff. But for a moment, everything just got silent as he approached, and then it was almost like he had the feeling of like, hey, what's going on here? And then he looked around, or he felt everything that was going on, and there came a peace over it. I wasn't ever afraid at any of that. It was just like wild how I felt, and that was fun. There was music involved. You'd think, I had a person ask me one time, well, if you're able to talk to them and communicate with them, why do you still have so many questions? And why are there parts about your stories and in the past that you still don't understand? And man, it's, you don't know what to ask them. That is so much. And you forget about things, you move on. I mean, actually, that's not so important as I'm talking to you about it. It's fascinating reliving that feeling, but I never really asked them, okay, what was that? Was that my atoms or my cells so I have no idea, I don't know. I can remember, last thing I'll tell you soon, I can remember I was at home in the back, I'm back on my property. My wife and kids are out there, and I was talking to Thomas on the phone. It's about midnight, full moon. And Thomas said, Johnny, you've got some young Sasquatch people out in the field beyond your fence that are hiding down, they're creeping in and shimmered in. See if you can see them. They're kind of testing you out of fun, the young ones. And so I was trying to look off and get close to the fence and look. And Thomas said, Johnny, turn around quick. And I turned around just in time to see a man shimmer out. A Sasquatch man was right behind me, probably about 5 feet away. and it was dark, so I didn't have time to see nose, facial features, and all that stuff. But I saw a silhouette, man. And he was built perfect. This guy was like a professional football player kind of guy, just built perfect, hair, but was silhouette, and I couldn't focus in on it. I didn't have time to focus on anything, but I did see the outline, the figure, like in awe with my mouth open, and then he just disappeared. That was something that I wasn't alone experiencing. That was something that the whole family got to see.
That is incredible that the whole family got to experience that. Have any of your family members also experienced mind speak in any way?
Well, that's the thing. I'm like the child of the bunch. My wife has always been kind of intuitive, I guess. So this wasn't near as surprising or shocking to her as it was to me. She was more open to all of it and took everything that happened and continues to happen kind of as a part of life. And for me, I was too much of a, like I say, my dad was a cowboy. Growing up in the country, everything was, pretty much black and white. And, I had to learn the most. And looking back on my life and speaking with different empaths that I'd crossed paths with in my life and maybe get validation from a lot of these stories, and we'd discuss it and talk about, we would validate things and so on. I realized that I was kind of born awake, born open, and then over the years, kind of with my childhood and growing up and my 20s and so on, I became more numb to it all. And then it started, 2010, 12, really going. It was rocking in 2014, but I was well on my way. But I was pretty numb for years of my life. My wife wasn't, and then my kids were kind of born into the openness that my wife and I raised them in, that they weren't shocked. It was just as exciting, I think, for everybody in different ways. None of us the same, but we all shared the feelings of love, excitement, lots of fun, always just lots of fun with the Sasquatch people, especially in a family arrangement like we had, like a family, my whole family experiencing them. Just a lot of fun. The kids don't do it so much anymore. They're growing up and they're doing their things in the world. But yeah, I think I was the one that really had to learn. And again, I took a lot of advice, and I called Thomas that time, and I went from there. Realized I was kind of there when I was really little, but forgotten about it all those years growing up. Does that answer your question?
It absolutely does. I'm sure there's a few people listening. You may have answered this in a few different ways already, but so there are probably people that want to have similar experiences before you get to the point where different ways, you need to have the right intention, patience. Do you also need to be going to the right area as well?
Okay, again, I don't know everything, but I'm just going to share the things that I have found and that are part of my truth. And I have had different conversations with different people that I can say this: everybody can do it. There is no one more special than anybody else. We are all on different parts of the same path. And one place on that same path is not any better or worse than another. We all arrive at different times, and there is no hurry. There's no schedule that we have to live by. So we kind of make it up as we go. Sparse areas, I think you'll feel that a lot of times. You don't need to leave your home. You can reach out and trust those first feelings, but you need to. One thing to be aware of is you need to be aware that there are negative entities out there, and so you have to be clear on with whom you wish to speak, and don't just take any words or feelings or things as coming from good. I hate saying good and evil. You can't have one with the other, so without the other. So I'm hesitant to rule out the other. But there are entities that wish us harm. So you have to tune them out. And you can do that by saying, Sasquatch people, I choose right now only to speak with you about so and so. And it is, and you make it so, and so it is. That's, your free will be respected. And the universe don't have to understand how all that works now, but it kind of works that simple. You can make your choices, and the universe respects it. If you do bad stuff and, lie and cheat, steal, things like that, that's as good as authorization that you can get contacted by these negative beings, and you kind of got your karma to deal with. But if you forgive others, forgive yourself, make clear this choices out of love on what you wish, and focus on that, and clear out all the trash, and try to clear the passageways of insecurities and dark thoughts and all that. But you can clear all that out. It's really easy to tap into the underlying layer, wherever it is, of that energy of love. From what I understand, love is all there is out there. And everything is made up of different levels of that. But if you can get out there in pure honesty, transparent love, friendship, you can have a lot of success. And then that going to places that maybe you can get away that are not so far. You don't have to escape down into the dark places of the forest. You can go to some places that make you feel good. Maybe you can park your car by a nice field with, it's got a nice breeze, and it doesn't have to be at midnight either. Just go out there and touch a tree and connect that tree, and maybe follow that tree with your feelings. Touch the tree and go into the roots, follow the roots into the ground, and then follow that ground out to the woods beyond with your imagination, and imagine who might be standing there feeling that as well. You might feel a turtle or a deer, and you might feel a Sasquatch person holding a tree too, looking right at you or feeling back at you. I don't know. It's like you said a while ago, the getting back and grounded. What was the terminology you used?
Kind of
balance.
Get out there and reset your focus.
Reset, yeah. You focus in on kind of what you want. You can reach it. You can communicate with on that level, and just imagine and call what you want, and make clear choices on what you want.
So let's say, hypothetically, sometimes you go to areas, I think, where there's a lot of Bigfoot activity. There might be other things going on as well. Some people will report, they'll go back home, stuff will start happening, they'll start receiving messages, but we may want to check to make sure that that's actually Sasquatch we're talking to and not something negative that's been brought back. Is that maybe correct? Or?
Yeah, it is. But like I say, if you clear your intent, and you have to do some some inner work, whatever that is. You have to be honest with yourself, or nobody, nothing out in a existence where the Sasquatch people are, that vibration where Mother Earth and the deer speak with the rabbits and all that stuff. I mean, at that kind of level of vibration and understanding of the one, our insecurities and lies, it's not going to fly. It's going to be it's not going to work. So you have to really do some inner work and clear yourself and forgive yourself, forgive others. Don't hold grudges. Ask humble questions. Be meek, humble, and yet clear with what you wish. And, when I go out, I make it clear with whom I wish not to speak. All negative beings, you know who you are, and I know who you are. Want nothing to do with you. You're not welcome. And so it is. And I'll say that, and so it is, because that's like, I made my choice, made my decision. That's the way it's going to be. But if we carry a lot of baggage into the forest, we're going to bring a lot of baggage back. It might not only be ours. So, yeah, that can happen. There's other things I don't know so much about with, I think what you're hinting at, ghosts and paranormal. I don't know a lot of that. And, I feel that it's all very real, especially real to the people that experience, for whatever reason they experience it. And I definitely accept it as a part of our mysterious world and universe. I don't always have to know everything. I usually try to keep everything in my life pretty tidy and simple. I like being out in the forest with the Sasquatch people, and I love the beauty of the other animals, and kind of within that framework, it's really easy to communicate with them, find something common to talk about, or common experiences to have, and gifts to share. There's really not a lot of baggage other than that, so it keeps it pretty simple.
John, I think this has been a really fantastic conversation. There's a lot people can learn from this, and it definitely will help point them in the right direction. I just want to say thank you for coming on the show and for spending some time sharing what you've experienced, but also things that you've learned along the way.
I still continue to learn, and hope that I never will stop. So it was an honor to speak to everyone. Thanks for having me, Jeremiah.
I'm gonna put your blog in the show notes so people can check that out. Is there any? Is that the main information you put out?
It's called My Lady of the Woods, and I started writing it around 2012. I think I wrote it to about 2016. I haven't added anything in it a while, but I am writing a new book called Heyoka Diary, based on all of those experiences from the My Lady of the Woods blog and the conversations that were in there. It's a lot of good conversations that need to get out now that I'm back out ready to share again.
Is there a way people can contact you at all, John?
Yeah, you can contact me at johnallentexas@gmail.com. Really simple. John Allen, Texas.
Fantastic.
gmail.com.
Just in case people want to reach out. But thank you so much for coming on the show. We will definitely be in touch and maybe connect and get an update at a later time. But I really appreciate you coming on today, John.
Yeah, it was fun for me too, Jeremiah. Thank you for this. It's fun. Have a great day.
You as well, sir. Time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Just wanted to take a minute to say thank you for listening to this episode of the Bigfoot Society podcast. John's story is a powerful reminder that Bigfoot is not just a mysterious creature of the woods, but a people with their own ways of communication, respect, and love. So huge thanks to John for sharing his incredible journey and helping us understand that sometimes the most profound connections are made with pure intent and an open heart. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to us on YouTube, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new episodes, and share this one with a friend who's into Bigfoot. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you're following the show, and if you'd be willing to leave a review, it really helps more folks find us. Now, if you or someone you know has had a Bigfoot encounter, especially in Northeast Texas or the surrounding areas, I'd love to hear from you. So please send me an email at bigfootsociety@gmail.com and let's talk about it. Thanks again for being part of the Bigfoot Society. Until next time, keep your eyes open, trust your gut, and never stop asking what else might be out there. And see you in the woods.